All right, we're going to get started. I think we still have a few more people joining us, but that's okay. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day today. This is part of Donor Database Experts Data That Delivers monthly webinar series. And today we're talking about the NXT Survival Kit, mastering the core essentials one click at a time. I know it's an exciting and maybe a little daunting time for all of us with how quickly everything with NXT is changing. So we just want to talk a little bit about some of the things we think you should be paying attention to now, what some of the changes are, and some things to think about before Database View is sunsetted in 2027. All right. So our agenda today, I'll tell you a little bit about me, a little bit about us, talk about our objectives. We're going to look at some fundamental parts of NXT, what's changing, look at some of the new features, how to keep up with what's coming, because it is like a fire hose coming at us. And then we'll take time for questions. So a little bit about me. I have 30 years of nonprofit experience. Over that, actually, it never stops hurting to say that. I've worked in fundraising, communication, volunteer management, events, and database administration. I've been with Donor Database Experts for 4.5 years, and I am passionate about educating, problem solving, and automation. So with Donor Database Experts, we are a nonprofit database consulting firm, and our values are to be the solution, always go the extra mile, take ownership, and put people first. So we're going to give an overview of NXT in that we're going to just talk about some of the areas that we think you should maybe be paying attention to at this time as things are changing so quickly. Talk about what some of those changes are, talk about how to prepare, and what else you should know. So I think we all know that there is a shift away from database view to unified view. It's sometimes just called NXT, sometimes called web view. So if I use all of those interchangeably, that's what we're talking about. And the idea is to move from now, where a lot of us, I think, are juggling database view and web view, to a single browser-based experience. This will also help right now with things like custom fields in NXT or WebView and attributes in database view. So times when there's conflicting terms, times when there's things that you put into WebView and they don't show up in database view, different attachments, things like that. And also just, I think, having to not log into two different things to do your work, to be able to do everything at once. The other thing to think about is, for those of us who've been around a long time, as I mentioned, database view has been around for a long time. I trained on it at Blackbaud campus before this millennium, which again hurts to say. So, and it hasn't changed a ton in how it looks overall. That's a long time in computer years. That's really a long time. And so I understand Blackbaud wanting to change to something that is more modern, something that is maybe a little bit more easily adaptable. I know that several years when we've been juggling these two views, one of the real challenges for the Blackbaud engineers has been, if we change something in WebView, does it break something in database view? If we change something in database view, does it break something in WebView? That's a really hard thing to have to balance. So I understand wanting to modernize, and I certainly understand not wanting to juggle two different systems. So all functionality will eventually live in NXT. And database view right now, the retirement date is targeted for the first half of 2027. We will, of course, be keeping a very close eye on specifics as that gets closer. So as we just mentioned, this is a technology refresh and mentioned some of the things are changing in terms of names. So attributes in database view are going to be custom fields. In NXT, solicitors are now called fundraisers. Proposals are opportunities. So again, if you've been having trouble understanding, well, what do they mean when they talk about custom fields? Who are fundraisers all of a sudden? That's what it is. So the things on the left, attributes, solicitors, proposals, are the things in database view, and custom fields, fundraisers, and opportunities are the things in NXT or unified view, web view. So the key parts of NXT that I want to look at today, because I think that there were some of the most exciting changes have been that I think you should know about, start getting used to, start playing around with, are lists, gift batching, which that's somewhat of a new one and very exciting, query, which has been around for a couple months now, dashboards, which dashboards themselves, of course, go back a little bit, but they've added some exciting functionality there. And security, the security settings have been changing rapidly, and I think they're doing some really great things there. So I want to talk about that. But first, I want to give you an easy win, something that I think is really cool that you could do today, no problem, and that you could play around with. And that is you can now customize your home page, that page that you see when you log into NXT. Where now usually you see some of the updates, maybe over on the right. If you have any plugins or add-ins, you see that over there, names of different constituents you've looked at recently. Well, there's things that you can add to it. So now on your home screen, you should see customize page and you should see manage. So that's these bits right here. So if you click on customize page, you will get this. And so you can see just with tiles, you have a variety of tiles that you can choose from to now have on your home page. So for those of us who in database view liked having different things appear on that sort of introductory screen when we logged into database view, same thing now that we can now do on the home screen here. And then if you look on the left, you can see you can have your quick links, your add-in links, things around your team. So I definitely suggest just take a couple minutes today if you're not doing this already and play around with this. This, again, is an easy, quick win with getting NXT customized a little bit more to you. So lists. Lists in NXT are a different way beyond query to segment data. And the things that you can now segment using lists are gifts, constituents, actions, and opportunities. And they are used right now for sending emails and communications. You can pick different lists to send various emails to. They're used for workflows. So if you're setting up a workflow, whether it's for constituent communications, when something happens in a workflow, then an email will go out to this list. Third-party apps like Letterbox use List in their app that lives within NXT. And you can use it in lieu of queries. The nice thing with a list is you build it, you filter it, and then you can export it. And the list you get is just a really nice list with information around constituents and their gifts or their opportunities, their actions. I think, again, this is something that Blackbaud has set up really, really well, and it's worth playing around if you have not already. So we're going to talk about them a little bit more. So I'm just going to use the example of constituents, but it generally works the same way with any of those list types. So for constituents in NXT, you'll go here, constituent lists, and you have three choices here. You can build a brand new list. You can open a saved list, so a list you've already created that maybe you want to do something with. Or you can start with a static query. And right now, that can be a static query that you build either in NXT using the query area there, or you build in the database. Either way, it will see both of those. So what happens then when you start with a new list, which is what I've done here? So you can see I already have some filters in place here. So for these constituents, I could filter by their constituent code. I could filter by gifts. I can filter by who the fundraiser or solicitor is, their constituent type, address, different tags, which is something worth playing around with. You can see here you can add columns to the final view that you get in your list. Here's where you can export that. With add and exclude, we'll talk about that a little more in a second. But so the filters here, the little cone, this is where you can add more filters. So if the default ones aren't doing it for you, click in there and see what else you can add because you can definitely add a lot more filtering capability to these lists. So I mentioned that when you're starting a list, if you want to work off of a query, it needs to be a static query. And I think right away you're understanding where that could be a little limiting if this is a list that you want to have update automatically, but you need to have some query functionality coming into it. So the nice thing is, as I mentioned, here we have this add exclude button. So here is actually where you could add in records from a dynamic query. So here you could also join it to another list. So have one list add or excluded from this list. But also here, a query of records, these can be static or dynamic queries, either one, which again, I think is really, really clever. If in traditional queries, you're used to using the and or XOR, it's somewhat similar. You can kind of think of it that way with the adding or the excluding. All right, batching. This is really exciting. So this is new. We always tell people you should always enter gifts in a batch. And up until I think just a few weeks ago, the batch in database view was just better. It was frankly the only place where we had that sort of grid option. I know for gift processors, that's the quickest and easiest way to put things in. But now we have the grid. The grid has come to NXT and it's super exciting. So not only can you do the batching, the other thing that I know we were thinking about a lot is could you set up templates for your batch? We always recommend setting up a template. The default fields that Blackbaud puts into place when you create a new batch, it's usually not enough. You usually need to enter more. So being able to use a template in database view, absolute lifesaver. Thrilled that you can do it in NXT view. Really love that. So you can see here, this is the view that comes up if you hit that you want to start a new batch, give it a description, expected number of gifts, expected batch total. So very familiar feeling. And here is where after you've set up batch templates, where you can access those templates. And then you create your batch. So where do you go to create the templates? So I'll tell you. Come over to gifts, go to overview, and over here on the right, you'll see that's where batch templates live. So click on there, and that's where you can set up your batch template. So why is it that we say that you should use batch templates that you build out instead of just using those default Razor's Edge fields? So part of the reason is that if we look here, and this is just a screenshot, but this is down a little bit in the list. The required fields are up higher. And of course, that's things like the name, the fund, the amount. But some pretty important things are not checked in there as part of the default. So for example, here you can see appeal. It's not checked off, and every gift should have an appeal, even if it's just unsolicited. Every gift should have a campaign. You can see, you can scroll down over here. If you scroll down further, package should be in your batch grid view. The acknowledgement letter, what letter do you want to have attached to this? The acknowledgement status, receipt amount. So when you look at this batch configuration, look through the list, I think you're going to find that you're going to want almost all of those fields in your batch template just to truly make your life easier. And you can see over here with these double-headed arrows, you can change the order that things are in, which is great because we would recommend that you do campaign, fund, appeal, package, just because that's kind of the logic of how those work together. All right, so batching, as I said, it's new. It is still in development. And there's actually 3 upcoming town halls with Blackbaud on batching. If you want to see what is coming, what's coming up with anything in NXT, watch for these town halls. This is a clip that I took from the home screen view where they have the updates. So you can see on here, this is the one about introducing grid view batch. Um, and if you click down here for full details, refer to the Inside Track Scoop, which is the blog about all this stuff, and it's good. This is what you would see if you went to that blog. So if you want to register for these, that's how to do it. So check in that update part of your home screen, look for this entry, look here, and then you'll see these are the dates for the grid batch view town halls, and I'd recommend going to them for sure. Um, okay, is there a different place to find the templates? Don't have that option on the right of my screen. Okay, so Josh, that's a great question. Um, if you're not seeing it on there, check your permissions. And we're going to talk about security in a minute because it's possible that you don't have the permissions for that. And even if you're somebody who has a ton of the permissions, sometimes when these new security features are set up, things are checked or unchecked by default. So give that a go. Um, and yeah, keep us posted. Do you have to enable something to have the batch templates come up, or have they not been rolled out to everyone yet? So Renita asking sort of the same question. So it does say here that the features are available for some or more of you. So it is also possible that these have not been rolled out yet to your market. So also keep an eye out. This next town hall is March 4th. So if you don't have anything by then, um, go to the town hall and ask Blackbug what the heck. Yep. So Heather is answering. It's been released in waves. Yep. So thank you, Heather. Excellent. All right. So query. Query has been around in NXT for a little bit now. And if you're like some of us and you really just have that muscle memory of using query in database view and guilty, if you haven't been using query yet in NXT, give it a go. The interface is really good. All of your queries that live in database live over in in NXT. And it's definitely, I think we all need to just start getting used to it. I do have to say, people have always liked about NXT that it's very user friendly. I do feel like early on, it was super friendly and easy for those people who are not database people, which was wonderful. If you had a major gift officer who not a database person, but you always wanted them to be able to check their stuff instead of asking you, having this was a godsend because they could go in and they could look at their stuff, and the learning curve was not very steep. Um, I think that for a lot of us that were data people, we really liked being in database view. We loved how complicated it was. We loved how you could really customize a lot of things. So I know a lot of us, and again, guilty, have been kind of heel draggers about using NXT day to day. But my recommendation is definitely start with your queries and see how you like it. Part of what my point is here is that I think the query interface is nice, it's easy to use. There's only one thing that's a shortcoming, although they're about to change that, and we'll talk about that in a second. But you can see query lives under analysis. So here's what it looks like if you haven't checked it out yet. And so this is the criteria part. So it looks very familiar. It has all the things that we are used to seeing in here. There's output, there's sort, options. So these were the options that you would usually get in the drop down at the top of the query screen. So those are there, and then running your results. And then down here at the bottom, you can even copy a link to your query, which is kind of cool. Also, so here's the export button. Now, this is just like in database view, where you can export your query. And most of us, I think, know that for things where you just need some quick data, you're just checking on something, that's great. Export that query data, that's fine. However, if you're doing a mailing list, anything involving, especially addresses, some summary data, things like that, in database view, best practice is to actually use export. So build your query, go to export, grab your query, get your export fields, export it out of there. So right now we've been saying, well, okay, Blackbaud, this is great, but we need the other half of this. We need the actual export, and it's coming. Super excited. They're actually having a town hall about that. I think the one I'm signed up for is March 10th. So really, really excited to see how export is going to tie into all of this. As I understand, they are actually going to be more integrated, which is going to be really, really wonderful. I think that's going to be exciting to see. All right, dashboards. So dashboards have been around for quite a while, for years. But they've been adding some more things to them. And, this is whether you only have Dash Builder or whether you have an Insights Designer, either way, the things that have been added for the most part should be available to you. Again, these are found under analysis. We're not going to talk about it today, but also note that standard reports are now under there. So those same reports, your financial detail and summary, tribute reports, things like that, you can get now also in NXT, and it's also a nice interface. Both the dashboards. So you've always been able to build out some really great KPI dashboards, event dashboards, things like that. And as you know, they could include tiles, they could include tables, charts, graphs. One of the new tiles is an engagement tile because now NXT can integrate with Constant Contact for emails. And so now you can get a really nice little engagement tile that's included in your dashboards. There's new tiles for membership now, which that was always kind of a shortcoming that you didn't have a lot of metrics available in dashboards around that. So those prayers have been answered. Also, around planned communications, there's a interface now with that for the dashboards and an appeal tracker. It's also very, very nice. If you do have Insight Designer, there's more granular metrics possible, projection metrics. So not just being able to see what you have, but being able to project where you might go from there. The thing to keep in mind, especially around Insight Designer, is if you're not wanting to do that, you're not wanting to add Insight Designer, which is an add-on module from Blackbaud, to your dashboards, keep in mind that Power BI, which is a Microsoft product, is also a possibility. And it's actually a pretty good one. Because again, things like projection metrics are possible with Power BI. The other thing that Power BI can do that you might not be able to do in dashboards is link together some disparate elements. So things that you can't build connections with right now, even with Insight Designers, in your dashboards, you probably can with Power BI. Power BI can be integrated directly into your database using Blackbaud's API. You also could export with a query into Power BI. You could even use Power Automate to set it up that you have a query that exports, goes into Power BI, does its things. Power BI produces beautiful reports, gorgeous graphs, tables, tiles, everything that you could want from dashboards. It can do. There is a little bit of a learning curve, but it's not terrible. Microsoft actually has some really, really helpful tutorials, practice elements that you can use. So I would say if you are someone who likes dashboards but has always felt a little limited by them, give it a go. Definitely give it a try and see if you like it. Especially if you've been thinking, do we want Insight Designer? I don't know. Definitely give Power BI a try. Okay, security. So the security settings in NXT, which you can see are down over here. This is what the screen looks like when you go into it. Has had just like a complete revamp upon revamp upon revamp the last few years. It's been head spinning, but I think it's good. Security used to be fairly high level. There was no finesse. It was kind of an all or nothing. situation with setting up profiles for people. Either they had access to, be able to change all the data or only read all the data. Now you can get extremely granular with what people can do. So if you have not looked at the security settings recently, definitely take a look, especially if your job is to have these different roles set up for people. Give it a look, because I think you're going to be really excited about what you can build out in terms of security for people. So the way it works is that over on the right, you have role management. So the roles are where you assign the jobs, not the people, but the jobs, their permissions. So, your gift entry people, your fundraisers, maybe you have special settings for your CEO. Um, maybe you have volunteers, so you have special settings for them. And when you go in and look at it, there's all different areas where you can give or deny access. And then within those areas, there's tons of different little things that you can turn on or turn off for those roles. Once you have those roles built out, then under user management, that's where for your new coworker, Jane Smith, that's where you go in and say, yes, she can have access to this role. Yes, she can do this role. Note, not that role there. So all those different things are built out here. So here's part of what that looks like if you're looking at these different roles. So you can see that under analysis roles here, there's an analysis manager, analysis view only, events, the event manager, the event assistant, fundraising role. Here's a full access group, You can see now there's even artificial intelligence roles around who can access what under artificial intelligence, communications. So, like I said, just very robust, a lot there. For example, just to show you how much is there, this is under those fundraising roles. So this is for this particular one, it's list access, but you can see here, there's just giving integrated tasks, workflow tasks, analysis, attachments, list, opportunities, receipt management, and you can see you can even scroll down further. So this is just under that fundraising, that one role, all the different things that you can add in there. So if your organization has not been keeping up with these security settings, definitely go in and take a look at them. Okay, so what else is changing? Those are the things that I think that you should check out that are really exciting. But what are some things that are either have gone away or going to go away? One of the things is um, standard fields can no longer be renamed. So for a lot of us, we liked to be able to change the birthplace. You could change that. The classic example is a lot of maybe parishes or church organizations would change birthplace to parish and use that to identify the home parish for a particular constituent. Um, Maybe for income, people repurpose that to something. So you're no longer going to be able to do that in NXT. So if you've been doing that, and again, I applaud your ingenuity, but if you've been doing that, you're going to need to audit that and figure out where you're going to map that to now. And it'll probably be a custom field would be your only choice for that. So it's a bit of a trade-off with NXT. We are going to have less opportunity for us to be able to customize things, but definitely getting a more robust and modern environment. What else? Okay, legacy mail tools. So the legacy mail tools here in particular is the mail module in database view. So it was bad enough, what was that, 4 years ago, after the data breach, when we all had to adapt to the mail module not being able to automatically produce our record, our letters, and we had to all build out the workarounds around that. Well, now the mail tool, that is going away, and there's not going to be a one-for-one replacement for it in NXT. One thing that's really cool that uh, it's not quite a replacement, but there's actually now AI acknowledgments, and I think I have a screen grab of that in a bit. So we're going to look at that. It's an email acknowledgement. So if you're someone who likes hard letters sent to your donors, that's not going to be the thing for you. What Blackbot is looking for here is they don't want to be the ones so much having a, word or those letters and all that living within NXT. So instead, if you really, really like the mail module and you like right now exporting out the mail module and then probably doing a merge of a Excel or CSV file with a Word document that has all kinds of conditions in it. Good news, you can do that. You can use export to do that. One of the things I'm excited about and excited to try is using Power Automate to be able to do that. Power Automate is another Microsoft tool. Again, part of that sort of Power suite that Microsoft has, like Power BI. It also integrates with Razor's Edge, with NXT, again through the API. A lot of cool things you can do with that. But one of the things that you could do is set it up so that when a batch is committed and you've added in those letter codes, you could take that conditional Word document that you have, and you, through Power Automate, could automatically, as soon as that batch is committed, have those letters be created and ready for review. I think that would be an amazing workflow to use Power Automate for if you are someone who wants to have those physical letters for your donors instead of emails. I know for a lot of our clients, physical letters are still sort of the nice touch and the thing that they want their donors to have. And so I think that'd be a really great way to do that. There's also plugins and plugins around those legacy mail tools. RedArc's Letterbox is a good one. It's one that some of our clients do use. I will say the only drawback to it, and this is not on RedArc, right now it cannot produce stock letters using the stock gift fields, and that has to do with the API. It doesn't have to do with anything on RedArc's end. So if you do a lot of stock gifts, might not be the option for you, but if you don't, Letterbox is actually a pretty slick tool. Plugins. So those plugins in the database where you go to the plugins button and you have all those alphabetically laid out plugins in front of you. Things like Importomatic, Importacular, things like that. It's going to be reimagined. Check out the marketplace. So now they're all going to be working with the API, just like Letterbox does, as I just mentioned. So I think that's going to be really exciting to see how these third-party tools are going to come in. The marketplace has been booming for the last several years, and it's only going to go up. The Sky APIs that I've been talking about, those are really going to be the primary access, whether it's for you building out things with Power BI, Power Automate, or third-party developers building out different tools to integrate with NXT. Duplicate detection changes. So right now, the duplicate management tool in WebView has a new data health logic. So if you have not checked out how duplicates are handled in NXT, check it out. It is still in development. They are still adding capabilities to it, tweaking it. And the duplicate rules in NXT are different than the duplicate rules in database view and in how they flag duplicates. So for example, and as you can see in the lower right, I took this directly from a knowledge base article. So if you want to read more, there's the citation for you. But so the differences between web view and database view when it comes to duplicates. I'm going to start at the bottom. So web-based view, it only matches the constituent record. So it's not looking at gender. It's not looking at suffixes. So if you have John Smith and John Smith Jr., it's not looking at that junior. It's going to flag them as duplicates. Alternate spellings, it's not considering those. So if you have John Smith and you have John Smith, but maybe instead of an O, you put an A into John, it's not going to catch that. It's not considering phone numbers, email addresses, and it only looks at the primary address type, and you have to run it manually in admin. So in WebView, it only matches constituent records, so that's the same. It does consider gender if you're using that, suffixes, and common alternate name spellings. Considers all addresses, which is great. Phone numbers, email addresses, not just the primary. It's running continuously in the background to identify those new potential duplicates, and merges WebView specific data. So, for example, WebView attachments. And this is something else to consider as an aside when you're thinking about your cleanup. That some attachments, if you attach them in WebView, you're not seeing them in database view, vice versa. So just, again, keep that in mind as you're prepping for the big changeover in 2027. But here you can merge that web view specific data using the duplicates tool in NXT. All right, new GIF processing features. So we already talked about the grid view batch, which is wonderful. The other thing that is fairly recent is you can now unpost GIFs in WebView, which is really exciting. So report and analytic improvements. We've talked about Insight Designer for visual dashboards. I touched a little bit on standard reports, but I didn't talk about the improvements there, not just that they exist, which is great, but also if you ever in database view try to export, let's say, a detail and summary, maybe the detail, and you wanted it in a spreadsheet. And first of all, you had a couple of different options on how to do it. I don't think any of them were ever really great. Either you got a lot of mess over on the left-hand side, or if you didn't get that, you had a lot of blank rows, some things out of alignment. So it was never really clean doing that with your standard reports in database view. So now, if you try it using web-based standard reports, CSV files, much cleaner and better formatted. PDFs have better text wrapping. If in database view you've known the pain of things getting cut off in the PDF view, now they've addressed that in the web view version. Also, the criteria can now be printed on the first page. So if you picture your reports in database view, the criteria can be there, but it's at the bottom. Now you can put it on the first page, which is nice because you can see right away what were the criteria used to produce that report. So again, I think a really a nice touch. Artificial intelligence in NXT. So where does duplicate management live in NXT? My mind just went completely blank and I am embarrassed. I feel like it's under constituents. Am I correct? Can anyone confirm that for me? But I think it's under constituents. If you go to the overview, so go to constituents and overview. But if I'm wrong, I'm hoping someone will tell me. So artificial intelligence in NXT. There's two different types of artificial intelligence going on, AI in NXT. So the one is chat for Blackbaud AI. This is not rolled out for everyone yet. If you have it, you'll see sort of the little sparkly symbol on your home screen up to the right. And here, this is where you can ask, thank you, yes, it is there. Yay. I said 30 years in fundraising, like I said, it's starting to get a little crazy up in here. So right now, the nice thing about the chat for Blackbaud AI is you can ask questions using real language. So you can click on that button and ask it, how many outstanding pledges were due today? What is the total giving for this fund? So questions like that. That kind of AI is kind of like your chat GPT in that it's generative. It can hallucinate, and this is one place where the better your data is, the fewer problems you will have with hallucinations, especially around when we talked about cleaning up. If you have fields that you've been using for funky things, that could cause some problems because it's going to be information there that the AI is not expecting. So definitely before you start using this for a lot of stuff, make sure your data is good and clean. Prospect Insights Pro for major gift identification. So there's Prospect Insights, there's Prospect Insights Pro, and Pro has more AI-driven data and predictions. So if that's something that your organization relies on heavily, it might be something you want to look into. The other thing that Blackwell is very excited about is what they're calling their agents for good. So this is agentic AI, and we'll talk about what that is in a second. The one that they've released now, so this is going to be like a squad. It's going to be like a squad of agentic AIs. The one that they've released now is the development agent. This is the one you might have heard about where it can almost function as a standalone team member. It can even initiate contact with a portfolio of donors. I would say with that piece, proceed at your own risk. What agentic AI is it's different from generative AI. It's not like a chat GPT. So when we talk about agents in terms of AI, they have a very narrowly defined mission that they don't go outside of. There should be very good guardrails on them, especially we hope the guardrails are extremely good if they're going to be communicating with donors. But yeah, they're sort of they just have a task. They're like the doozers in Fraggle Rock. This is what they do. I'm interested to see where this is going to go. I think having agentic AI for some things in Blackbaud could be really useful. But I think if it's a road you go down, just trust but verify, as I say. And if you're going to use any of this, make sure that your data is clean. Okay, integrations and automations. So one of the things that I mentioned earlier is a new integration is Constant Contact as a standard email tool. So again, what we're starting to see Blackbaud do, we're on the outside looking in, is we're starting to see them really want to focus on their core competency of the data, the donors, those pieces, and communication tools, reporting tools, automations. Those they're starting to now integrate more with third parties. And so this with Constant Contact is another example of that. The other thing we talked about was there's the innate workflow designer, which does live in NXT. If you've played around with it, it can do some cool stuff, but it's a little limited. I don't expect they're going to give it much more love because they really are investing heavily in terms of time, training, just people power in Power Automate and Power BI. We talked a little bit about automating acknowledgments and reporting and notifications. So I mentioned earlier the AI acknowledgments, and I hadn't really played around with that too much until earlier today. So this, if you want to know where it is, it's under gifts. So you can see over here, the little gift icon is lit up. So if you click on there, go to acknowledgements, and AI acknowledgements will be under that. I'm not sure if it's rolled out for everyone or not. So this is pretty cool. Now, again, if you want to send hard copies of things, of your acknowledgements to your donors, this is not for you. This works with email, but I think it has a lot of potential. It does work off of your acknowledgement letter codes. You give it more information, you tell it the tone on a slider. Um, so I think this could be neat. Now, again, the good thing is, as you can see here, there's a acknowledgements to review section. Review very carefully because here the AI is writing the acknowledgement. So check them carefully. Don't just send them out. If you attended our AI webinar a couple months ago, we talked about all the potential pitfalls of AI. So review carefully. Someone shared in the questions that they had a lot of high hopes for workflow, and yeah, I feel we're being let down. I agree. I thought they were going to be building that out more, but I really feel like they're putting their eggs in the Power Automate basket. As an aside, I did do the Power Automate training as part of BB Dev Days regional, and the training was excellent. It was really, really good. Um, but because they're investing so heavily in that, I don't think they're going to do anything more with workflows. I could be wrong. That's truly just my assumption. All right, so data hygiene action plan. So make sure your data is clean. This should be your mission for the next year, is to go through your data and make sure you have everything clean, locked down, and ready to go for when, excuse me, when database view goes away. Check all of your attachments. Make sure that any attachments you have right now in database view can be seen in NXT, and if not, manually get them over there. Just make sure that everything right now, nothing's going to get left behind. Leave no data behind when that goes away. Audit any renamed fields that you have and get that data into your custom fields. The cool thing about custom fields now in NXT is they can now be filtered on in lists and reports, which is really, really nice. So get all those things done. One last thing that is still definitely a work in progress, but keep an eye on this, solicit codes. So we're all used to using the solicit codes in the lower left of the Bio 1 tab on a constituent record. And hopefully you have it pretty locked down to where you just have things like do not mail, do not phone. Um, we still suggest a do not email, even though you also have the checkbox around do not email, which you do need to use, especially if you're using NXT to send out email. But right now, helpful to have it in both places, honestly. Um, and then you might have a nuclear do not solicit, leave them alone, don't reach out to them. So right now in NXT, there's solicit codes, there's consent settings, and communication preferences. The consent settings, I get the sense, is where they're eventually trying to funnel everything to. And here I do have where you can find that. So it's under settings, control panel, and you can see here it's the bottom one, consent management. So right now, and this is one that hasn't been set up, the consent channels are mail, email, phone. So you can see all of that there. No categories have been set up yet. What is cool about these is the three dots are missing over here, but if you clicked on the three dots, you can actually set up rules about things that, if something happens, then this happens around your consent settings, which is really nice because sometimes we're human and we just forget to update those settings and they're really important. So the one thing though that is not living in NXT around these consent settings is, some of the, I think it's the channel information. You can see it here. But I think for changing it, you do still need to do some work in the database. So once again, there's a little back and forth here on these. But keep an eye on this because this is something that is going to be integrated. So you're going to want to be ready to move any solicit codes over into the final version of this. Okay, how do we keep up with all this? Like I said, it's a fire hose. So one of the best things is to watch your home screen in NXT in that upcoming area. They're doing a great job. They have a lot of links, a lot of information that'll get you to the, the final version of this. So one of the best things is to watch your home screen in NXT in that upcoming area. They're doing a great job. They have a lot of links, a lot of information, a lot of information that'll get you to the final version of this. So one of the best things is to watch your home screen in NXT in that upcoming area. They're doing a great job. They have a lot of links, a lot of information that'll get you to the um, to the town halls, things like that. So keep an eye on that. The Razor's Edge Facebook group. Hopefully you're all members of that. Not only is it a great place to just keep up with what's going on, but then on top of it, um, you can just interact with each other and say, hey, I see this is a new thing. I don't know how to use it. And lots of helpful people there. And then attend those product update briefings. So when you see those, sign up for them. In fact, someone said, where can you sign up to receive the update briefings? So the best thing I've found, and I have to admit, I don't know that there's a place to just sign up to get them all by email. If people are getting those, hop into the questions and share that. I go to that the blog, and that's connected in the upcoming changes. And that's how I get over to see the town halls because they're pretty good about listing in there what's going to be when. And if you're interested, go here to click. Because speaking of fire hose, my email is like a fire hose. And so I have to admit, if it came in there, I'd probably miss it. Is it possible to globally add an opt-in consent for SMS? That is a great question. And I have to admit that while everything is in such flux, I don't know. The one of the recommendations I did see when I was researching and reading up is right now, maybe don't make any big changes to your consent codes, things like that, if you can help it. So if that is something you can hold off on, maybe hold off on it. In terms of just the general opt-in on forms and things like that, yes, go to your forum settings and there's settings in there around that. But I don't know that I would do any global additions or changes right now. I think I'd wait to see where everything's going to land because you may just end up having to change things all over again. So that would just be my suggestion. Okay, so are there any other questions around all of this? I know that was a lot of information. I know Blackbaud is really keeping us all on our toes. And, I know that right now it is kind of not easy to be trying to keep up with all of it. So definitely, as I said, keep an eye on those briefings. Go to the Razor's Edge group in Facebook and, be a resource for each other. This is an exciting time, but a little bit of a scary time. So let's be kind to each other and help each other out. Any other questions? All right, great. Well, our next session in March is going to be on March 31st, so a little bit later. And we did have some more come in. Is it possible can we sign up for one or more of those classes? More of these classes? Yes, you can. Good timing. So our next class is going to be on March 31st. And this one is going to be around events because 'tis the season. You probably have either a gala or a walk or a golf tournament staring you down right now. And so we're going to talk about certainly the events module in NXT, in database view. We'll be talking about the different third-party integrations that you might be using, greater giving, things like that. And just sort of some of those best practices so that you don't lose your mind in the middle of all that. So we're going to be joined by a member of our team who is our events expert, and she's going to have a lot of helpful hints for you. So that'll be March 31st. The way to sign up is that you will receive an email just with that information. So please do sign up and also email us with any feedback that you have. You can also go onto our website and find the past sessions. So if you want to look at what we've done in other webinars, check that out. I'm very partial to the AI one, only because we talked about the great AI elephant invasion of 2025, and that was a lot of fun. So With that being said, I hope you have a wonderful week. Happy data, happy fundraising, and thank you for being here with us. Take care.